Hey, welcome back to the Learning Lab, everyone. I'm Jane, and as always, I'm here with my wonderful, amazing, super talented co-host.
Oh, stop it, stop it. Okay, don't stop. Keep going. I'm Jenny, and yes, welcome back, everyone. We are so happy you're here with us today. Seriously, whether you're listening on your way to work, or you're cooking in the kitchen, or you're just lying in bed pretending you're being productive.
That last one is me every single morning, by the way. I'm the king of lying in bed with my headphones on thinking, okay, I'm learning, this counts.
It absolutely counts, Jane. Learning is learning. Okay, so today's episode, I'm really excited about this one because it's something that a lot of our listeners have been asking about. And honestly, it's something that I wish someone had explained to me much earlier when I was learning English.
Yes, exactly. And the topic today is how English is actually spoken, like real English, the English that native speakers use every single day when they're talking to their friends, ordering coffee, texting their mom, not the English that's only in textbooks.
Right, because there's a huge difference, And nobody really warns you about that difference when you first start learning. You study so hard, you memorize all the grammar rules, you feel confident, and then you go talk to a real native speaker and you're like, wait, what language are they even speaking right now?
Oh my goodness, yes. I remember this so clearly. My first time in an English-speaking country, someone came up to me and said, "Want to grab a bite?" And I just stood there, completely frozen. Because in my head, I was like, wanna? Grab? A bite? What is being bitten? Who is biting?
That's so real, James. That's so real. I had a similar moment when someone asked me, "How's it going?" And I started giving them a full, detailed update on my life. Like I said, "Well, things have been quite challenging lately because I have been studying very hard, and the weather has also been rather cold." And the person just kind of smiled and walked away.
No. Oh no, Jenny. That's both hilarious and heartbreaking.
It really was. And that's exactly why today's episode matters, because those little moments, they can make you feel so embarrassed even when you've done nothing wrong. You were just speaking the English you were taught.
Exactly. So today we're going to break it all down together. Connected speech, contractions, reductions, informal expressions, all of that good stuff in a way that's easy and actually fun. So let's get into it.
Okay, so James, let's start from the very beginning. When people talk about how English is spoken, what do we actually mean? Because I think a lot of learners think, oh, English is English, right? You just say the words.
Right, and that makes sense on the surface. But here's the thing. When people speak naturally and quickly, the words kind of blend together. They don't say each word separately and clearly like a robot. They connect sounds, they drop letters, they shorten words, and the whole thing sounds really different from what you see written on a page.
Yes, and this is called connected speech. That's the term for it. Connected speech is basically when words flow into each other in natural conversation. And it happens in every language, actually, not just English. But English connected speech can be really surprising if nobody has ever told you about it before.
So let's give a simple example. The phrase, I am going to. In writing, you see four separate words, I am going to. But when a native speaker says it quickly, it sounds like, I'm gonna. Just like that. I'm gonna. Very short, very fast.
And that's a really famous one, gonna. A lot of learners actually know gonna because it shows up in songs and movies, but there are so many more reductions like this that people don't always teach you. For example, want to becomes wanna, have to becomes have got to becomes gotta.
And my personal favorite, could have becomes coulda, or should have becomes shoulda, or would have becomes woulda. These are called modal reductions, and they come up all the time in everyday conversation.
Oh, and here's one that confuses so many learners, the phrase did you. When you say it fast, did you sounds like did you eat already? Instead of did you eat already. The sounds just blend together naturally.
Wait. Did is such a good one. I remember the first time I heard someone say, did you see that? And I genuinely thought they were saying a word I didn't know. I was nodding along, like, yes, the did you, of course, very good.
That's so funny. And honestly, that's such a normal experience. You don't want to interrupt someone and say, "Excuse me, what is a didja?" So you just nod and hope for the best.
You just nod. You smile, you nod, and you process it later. Okay, so let's also talk about contractions, because I think contractions are really the foundation of natural English speech, right?
Absolutely, yes. So a contraction is when you take two words and you push them together with an apostrophe. The most basic ones are things like I am becomes I'm, you are becomes your, he is becomes he's, they are becomes their, and so on.
And here's the thing about contractions. In formal writing, like in an essay or a business report, you might write the full form. I am very pleased to meet you. But in conversation, nobody says that. In conversation, you say, I'm really happy to meet you. And it sounds completely natural.
Right, and if you use the full form all the time in speech, it can actually sound a little stiff or awkward. Like imagine someone walks up to you and says, completely seriously, I am going to the store. Do you want anything? It's not wrong, but it sounds a little formal, like they're reading from a script.
Exactly. It's like the difference between someone texting you, I am on my way, versus I'm on my way. You'd be like, okay, is everything all right? Why so formal?
Yes, I am on my way sounds like a royal announcement. Hear ye, I am on my way to your location.
All hail! Okay, so beyond contractions and reductions, let's also talk about informal expressions and phrasal verbs, because those are huge when it comes to understanding how English is really spoken.
Oh, this is a big one. So, a phrasal verb is a verb that's combined with a preposition or an adverb, and together they have a meaning that's often completely different from the original verb, and native speakers use them constantly.
For example, give up. The word give on its own means to hand something to someone, right? But give up means to stop trying, to quit. So if your friend says, I gave up on that diet, they don't mean they handed the diet to someone, they mean they stopped doing it.
Or how about run into? If I say, I ran into my old teacher at the supermarket yesterday, I don't mean I crashed into her physically, although that would be quite a story. I mean, I bumped into her by accident. I saw her unexpectedly.
Oh, speaking of running into people at supermarkets, this actually happened to me and it was so awkward. I ran into someone I knew, but I could not remember their name at all. And they were talking to me like we were best friends. And I just kept saying, yeah, totally, haha, so funny, for about 10 minutes without knowing who they were.
No, James, that's a nightmare. What did you do?
I waited until they said someone else's name in the conversation, and then I kind of pieced it together. Detective work, full Sherlock Holmes mode in the cereal aisle.
Okay, that's actually impressive. All right, back to phrasal verbs. Some other really common ones that come up in everyday English are figure out, which means to understand or solve something. I can't figure out how to use this app. Or hang out, which means to spend time with someone casually. Do you want to hang out this weekend? Or look forward to, which means you're excited about something in the future.
I'm looking forward to the weekend so much. Yes, that one is used all the time. And also, come up with, which means to think of an idea. She came up with a brilliant plan. These are all so natural in speech, but they can be really confusing if nobody explains them to you.
Absolutely. And the best way to get comfortable with them is just exposure. Listening to podcasts like this one, watching shows, talking to people, and then slowly the phrases start to feel familiar and you stop overthinking them.
Yes, and also, don't be afraid to ask. Like, if someone uses a phrase you don't know, it is completely okay to say, hey, what does that mean? Most people are happy to explain. English speakers love explaining things, honestly.
That's true. Okay, so let's also quickly mention something called intonation and stress, because this is another huge part of how English sounds in real life. Even if you know all the words, if your stress is in the wrong place, the sentence can sound a little off.
Oh, great point. So stress means which word or which syllable in a word you say louder or with more energy. And in English, stress completely changes the meaning sometimes. Like take the sentence, I didn't say she stole the money. If you stress different words, the meaning changes every time.
Wait, this is so cool. Let's do it. Okay. I didn't say she stole the money. Stressing I means someone said it, but not me.
I didn't say she stole the money. Stressing say means I implied it, but I didn't use those exact words.
I didn't say she stole the money. Stressing she means someone stole it, but not her specifically.
Isn't that wild? It's the exact same sentence, same words, same grammar, but completely different meaning depending on where you put the stress.
English is kind of incredible like that. Infuriating, but incredible.
Both things can be true at the same time.
Okay, so let's make all of this more concrete by doing a little mini role play. This is one of my favorite parts of the episode. We're going to have a short, natural conversation, and then we'll break down what happened.
All right, so the scenario is two friends, James and Jenny, are catching up after not seeing each other for a while. Very relatable. Jenny, you start.
Okay. Hey, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. How have you been?
Good, good. Super busy. You know how it is. Hey, did you hear about that new cafe that opened up downtown?
Wait, no, I haven't been downtown in ages. Want to go check it out sometime?
Yeah, totally. I've been meaning to go, but I keep putting it off. What have you been up to lately anyway?
Honestly, I've been trying to get back into running, but I kind of gave up after like 3 days.
Same. I signed up for a gym membership back in January, and I've been there maybe twice.
Twice? Okay, that's not too bad, actually. I would have done worse.
Fair enough. Okay, so should we grab a bite first and then figure out when to go to that cafe?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm starving.
Okay, so let's break that down because that conversation was full of real spoken English features. First, how have you been? That's a contraction of how have you been? Totally natural.
Then James said, did you hear? That's did you hear in connected speech, the sounds blending together. And then wanna go, that's want to go, another very common reduction.
What have you been up to? That's what have you been up to with the contraction what of. And putting it off is a phrasal verb meaning to delay something, to keep postponing it.
And then I would have done worse, that's I would have done worse, a modal reduction. And then at the end, grab a bite, that's an informal expression meaning to eat something, to get some food.
And figure out when, another phrasal verb meaning to decide or plan something. So in that short conversation, we use contractions, reductions, phrasal verbs, and informal expressions all naturally.
And it didn't feel like a grammar lesson at all. It felt like two real people talking, which is exactly the goal.
Okay, now let's talk about some common mistakes that English learners make when it comes to spoken English. And we want to be really kind about this because these mistakes are totally understandable. They come from learning rules that are correct but maybe incomplete.
Exactly. And honestly, making mistakes is how you learn. Both James and I have made all of these mistakes ourselves, so there's zero judgment here. Okay, mistake number 1, speaking too formally in casual situations. We touched on this earlier, but it's worth saying again. If your friend asks, "How are you?" and you say, "I am doing very well, thank you for asking," it's not wrong, but it sounds a little stiff.
In that situation, most people would say something like, I'm good, thanks, or pretty good, you? Or even just good, good. Short, warm, casual. And it's totally fine to keep it brief. People aren't usually expecting a full, detailed answer.
Mistake number 2, translating expressions too literally from your first language. This one is so easy to do because your brain is used to thinking in your native language, and sometimes the expressions just don't translate directly.
Yes, like in some languages, there are expressions that when you translate them word for word into English, they mean something completely different, or they sound very strange. And this can lead to some really funny moments.
I once told someone in English that my stomach is making a concert, because in my language, that's how we describe a growling stomach, and the person just looked at me like, your stomach is performing?
Ha! A concert. I love that. In English, you'd say, my stomach is growling, or I'm starving, or just, I'm so hungry. But honestly, my stomach is making a concert is very poetic, and I think we should bring it back.
Let's make it happen. Okay, mistake number 3, this is a big one, not using contractions enough when speaking. A lot of learners avoid contractions because they want to be correct, but in spoken English, using the full form all the time can actually make you sound less natural.
It's like if someone asks you, are you coming to the party? And you say, I am not sure if I am able to come because I do not know what time I will be finished with work. Every word is correct, but it sounds very formal.
more naturally, you'd say, I'm not sure. I might be a little late. I don't know when I'll get off work.
Right. The contraction version is shorter, easier to say, and it just sounds more like a real person and less like a formal letter.
Mistake number 4, using the wrong register. Register means the level of formality you're using, and this can go both ways. Sometimes learners are too formal in casual situations, and sometimes they use very casual language in situations where more formal language would be appropriate.
Yes, like if you're in a job interview and the interviewer asks, "Can you tell me about yourself?" You probably don't want to start with, "So yeah, basically, I'm just a really chill person who's kinda into marketing and stuff," even if that's exactly how you'd say it to a friend.
Yeah, so I'm kind of into marketing. The interviewer would be like, well, okay then. So it's about reading the room and adjusting your language to fit the situation.
And mistake number 5, and this is maybe the most common one, being afraid to speak because you're worried about making mistakes. This one is so important because the fear of making mistakes keeps so many people from actually practicing and improving.
And here's the thing, native speakers make mistakes too. All the time. People stumble over words, they use the wrong phrase, they forget a word and say, you know, the thing you used to, and everyone just figures it out from context.
And language is messy and imperfect, and that's totally normal. The goal is communication, not perfection. And every time you speak, even imperfectly, you are getting better.
Yes, exactly that. Speaking imperfectly is still 1,000,000 times better than not speaking at all.
Okay, so we are getting close to the end of today's episode, and honestly, I feel like we could talk about this topic for like 3 more hours, but we'll save some of that for future episodes.
Yes, there is so much more to say about spoken English. We didn't even get into slang or regional accents or texting language. There's a whole world there. But for today, let's do a quick recap of everything we covered.
So today we talked about connected speech, how words blend together when people speak naturally and quickly. Things like wanna, gonna, hafta, gotta, coulda, shoulda. These are all just fast, natural versions of longer phrases.
We talked about contractions, pushing 2 words together to make speech flow more naturally. I'm, your, he's, their, I've, we'll, and so on. Using contractions makes you sound more natural in everyday conversation.
We talked about phrasal verbs, verbs combined with prepositions that have their own special meaning. Give up, run into, figure out, hang out, put off, come up with. These come up all the time in real English.
And we talked about word stress and intonation, how stressing different words in the same sentence can completely change what you mean. And we talked about register, matching the formality of your language to the situation you're in.
Now, here's your challenge for this week, and we love giving challenges because we know you actually do them. At least some of you do, and we love you for that.
Your challenge is this. Have one conversation this week, even a short one, where you try to use at least 2 or 3 of the features we talked about today. Use a contraction, try a phrasal verb, reduce a phrase like want to wanna, and just see how it feels. It might feel weird at first, but that's completely normal.
And if you want to share how it went, you can find us. Tell your friends about the Learning Lab, leave us a review, and keep showing up for yourself. Because every episode you listen to, every conversation you have, you are getting better, even when it doesn't feel like it.
You are absolutely getting better, and we are so proud of every single one of you for being here and putting in the effort. English is not easy, but you are doing it, and that matters a lot.
All right, that's it for today's episode of the Learning Lab. I'm Jenny.
And I'm James, and we will see you in the next one. Keep learning, keep speaking, and remember, even your mistakes are progress.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.